Hello, this is going to be a follow-up of the last video. My last video was mostly talking about new bait and like giving an alternative to what you should be doing. Mostly just simple stuff like what strains you should avoid and what strains you should gravitate towards. This video is mostly on small but advanced things that could give you an advantage if you play them really well. Like as you can see what I've been doing here for the last 20 seconds, I've been deleting my tiles with the Alt click. Now, why this is a big deal is deleting your tiles will stop your expansion nodes and your core from expanding into the walls of the room that you start in. And you can hide in a really small room, like in maintenance, if you do this really smartly, if you play really well. Like, this can win you the game by itself. And as for expanding, here's a pattern for those who have OCD. Probably the best trick you can have up your sleeve is knowing what strains you have available. It costs you nothing to actually look at what strains you have available. You just need to be able to actually afford to change your strain to be able to check. Your available strains only actually change when you commit to going to a different strain. So sometimes you might want to roll a different strain just to roll your available strains so you can actually like react to stuff in the future. Reactive spines and replicating film are a lot more powerful when they're just sitting in your available strains because you can immediately switch to them as soon as the crew overcommit to using lasers or melee with Hulk or simple mobs or golems. It's very tilting when you get a lot of people set up to laser down a blob and then he suddenly switches to replicating film. Like that will actually get me to fucking AFK on the shuttle. Okay, so this is my final tip, but it's more like a strategy that you actually have to really commit to in order to actually get any advantage out of it. But it's also extremely powerful because it also lets you break a lot of fundamental rules about blob. And this strategy is based around solely using networked fibers to build up your economy and spamming nodes out. It's also very, very expensive to commit to, so you have to do it very early, as soon as you can. Like as you can see, I don't have the luck to actually be able to roll networked fiber, so it's very expensive for me to keep rolling for it. But if you're persistent, you'll get it eventually. Okay, so the gimmick behind networked fibers is instead of your nodes producing blob tiles, they'll start producing you resources. This resource tree regeneration is not diminishing, so it ends up being a lot more than the actual resource nodes themselves. The other gimmick behind networked fibers is you can also move your nodes around instead of it manually expanding, and what this results in you being able to pack a lot of resource regeneration into a very small area. The only thing stopping this from being like OP broken is that you have to manually expand to where you're spawning the nodes, which costs resources, and then you have to actually move all those nodes over and collect them in another area, which costs even more resources. But if you manage to pull this off without being caught early, you're going to have a massive lead when the blob announcement hits because you're going to have more points than you know what to do with to be able to spam out blobber knots every 30 seconds. Now, eventually you might want to not play as networked fibers anymore. It's a very good economy strain, but it also requires a lot of manual clicking and expanding. I believe that Synchronous Mesh is probably the best strain to switch to by default because it makes great use of the extra nodes that you're going to be having because they support each other the most. So here you can see me struggling to kill a single node of a blob that's just AFK, no blobber not nothing defending, and I'm not even able to get any damage in. So I think what's going on here is how blob tiles with synchronous mesh will share their damage with other nearby tiles surrounding them. But the nodes themselves don't take damage from the splash, so all they're doing is providing damage reduction while also producing more and more tiles than you normally have to deal with, which also in turn provide each other with more damage reduction. And when a node automatically expands into a player, it attacks that player. So you're not going to be hit by one tile, you're going to be hit by all of them from all expanding nodes. Like this is more concentrated fire than most blobs will ever deal with in a single spot. Like this is ridiculous. Officer, I can't fucking kill this blob.